That was really good. So Spring is actually a romantic horror movie. And let me just say, it does work better as a romance a little bit more than it does a horror movie. But what it combines and what it does is truly excellent. Now, I didn't know a lot going into this movie. I only heard about the name, saw that it had a high percentage on Rotten Tomatoes, then looked up the synopsis. I thought, okay, this kind of looks good. And then I saw it was romantic horror movie, and I was like, okay, let's try this out. I haven't seen a lot of really excellent horror movies lately. And so I watched the trailer and I was hooked. I really wanted to see this movie. So let me give you a brief little synopsis of the film. I'm not going to spoil anything for you because it's one of those movies that you need to go in not knowing too much about it. For reasons I will not get into, some reason an American, our main character, has to get away from the US. So he travels to Europe, he travels to Italy. In Italy he finds this really old, nice Italian town with stone buildings. It looks really nice. So he's sticking around in this old town and he comes across a woman that's beautiful and he's totally attracted to. So he hits on this girl, he tries to go out with her. She's a little bit, well, not hesitant, she just doesn't want a relationship. But eventually these two connect, these two fall in love. Well, unfortunately this girl, she has a very dark secret. She may or may not be a monster. That's all I want to get into with this movie. It's one of those movies you do have to watch not knowing too much about it in order to really appreciate what it is. Let me just say I really enjoyed this movie. There isn't a lot of gripes I have with it, but I do have a few. It does have that really nice indie drama to the whole film, and it really is impactful and it has some really good emotional moments. You kind of know exactly what this film is like once you see the opening scene, because the opening scene isn't something you'd expect from modern horror or a modern romance movie. It feels like, holy crap, this movie is really going for it. And again, I do not want to spoil it because it delves into the reasons why he has to get away from the US. And this movie is fast-paced for the first 15 or so minutes. It really tells you only the information you need to know, and then it quickly gets him to the old town because that's where he meets the girl, and that's where the movie starts picking up, and that's where our story starts. So it has to get there really quickly. But it develops its character really nicely. It lingers on scenes so you know everything you need to know about the character, about the situation. And it does feel like it's getting through it fast, but you get everything you need to know in a way that is actually telling of the story, of the characters, of the movie. Unlike Serena, and I do love the setting of the whole movie. The Italian town is really nice to look at. A lot of beautiful structures, a lot of old and ancient architecture. Feels like a really nice setting for this movie. And it had a lot of subplots in the movie with this farmer that the guy ends up working for in order to stay in town, and a few other subplots that actually have meaning to the whole story as well. They don't feel like they're completely just tacked on there like some other horror movies that are trying to go for a bigger and more important drama. It is also acted extremely well, especially our two main characters. They did a fantastic job with each other. They were realistic. They felt like they had a good personality. The girl is a little bit of, not manipulative, but she teases a lot. She tells it how it is. They have great chemistry together. They really work great, and I can't express just how much these two did a really fantastic job and really held the movie together. Because let's face it, if this is a romantic horror movie, the characters need to fall in love, the characters need to feel like they have chemistry, the actors need to be really good in order for the romantic part to be successful, and I think the romantic part is very successful. Now, the horror is great. I can see people being extremely scared of this movie. but I can see why some people might not be scared, because personally I wasn't too scared, but I've seen so many horror movies over the years that I am kind of numb to most scares. There's only particular scares that still get me today. Particular fears, and this movie didn't have those particular fears. The movie does an extremely great job at keeping the mystery of the girl and what is wrong with her until she finally explains it to our main character. Because even though we see through the eyes of the female a few times, the movie and her condition find a way to keep us guessing what kind of monster is she. Because the 3 times that she transforms before explaining to him, it's something a little different. And it makes you wonder, is she a vampire? No, is she a werewolf? Is she a demon? What the heck is she? And let me just say, her condition is extremely unique, and I've never heard of anything like it. If there is something like that, another horror movie out there similar to her condition, I have never heard about it, because it's completely unique for me. Not many horror movies can boast that uniqueness. There is definitely some graphic moments in this film. There are some really horrifying elements to the film, but this is definitely not one of those horror movies where the monster kills several people. I think there's really only one person that dies throughout this entire film. Please, if you go to watch Spring and you really want to see it, don't go in there thinking it's the horror movie of like this creature feature that kills a bunch of people while the guy's away. She's definitely trying to keep control. And I have to say, there are some really funny and kind of creepy moments at the same time. I wouldn't say comedy horror, but there's something creepy about it, something actually tension-filled while still kind of being funny. The best thing I can say is the church scene that happens in the last third of the movie. You'll know it when you see it. It's a church scene, and it happens after he knows everything about her. There's also only one jump scare in the entire movie, and it was a really damn good jump scare. It wasn't a cheap one. It wasn't one that felt like it was manipulative. It felt like a really good, true jump scare. I know I leaped off my seat. I do love the ending of this movie as well. Now, I do only have a few gripes with the film, and they are very, very nitpicky, but they are gripes. For one, like I said, I didn't find this movie extremely scary. I didn't feel like it was scary enough for me. And there is one moment where a rabbit is killed and there's CGI blood, but the CGI blood is really terrible and very noticeable. It's a quick moment, but it just really, and then I feel some of the dialogue for some of his friends and some of the characters, while they do make sense for those characters, do feel a little too dumb and just a little like, it's one of those dialogues that feel bad, but it actually fits the characters. It's really hard to explain. Other than that, I thought Spring was an amazing movie, and it's one of those under-the-radar movies that you probably never heard about, and you should really go try it if you have the chance to see this movie. Spring is almost a 5-star movie for me, but I did have some gripes. It is better than 4.5. It should be a 4 3/4, but I don't do quarters, so for now, Spring gets 4.5 stars. Have you seen Spring? What did you think about it? Go ahead and comment. If not, what is your favorite romantic horror movie? There are some out there, if you've seen any. As always, this is BruceGifford, and this was Just My Opinion.